When the PS4 came out, I have to give it credit for having a very solid lineup of launch titles that span to a majority of genres, mostly because the PS3 had a large handful of really forgettable games, while the really solid memorable ones came out a year later. So Knack is a platformer on the PS4, and while most people don't like it, I'm not going to pretend like I don't know why, but for me, I actually really enjoyed its simplicity. It's got challenge, action, and, well, a lot of things that kind of fall flat. Our story takes place in a world where humans and goblins are at war, and the technology is powered by mysterious relics that were found in underground tombs. A scientist found a way to give this one relic life and consciousness, and that is how Knack came to be. He has a small collection of relics that can grow larger when he brings more relics into his body. So Knack, the doctor, his young assistant Lucas, an explorer named Ryder, and a wealthy industrialist named Victor travel to defeat the goblins and find the direct source of the relics. The plot falls apart pretty quickly since there are a few plot holes and not enough story depth. The characters are pretty forgettable and not very likable, but overall, I really love these designs. An example of just how stupid it can become is that early on, Victor turns out to be the villain, big shock, and kidnaps Lucas completely at random, apparently because Victor wanted the doctor's attention to show him this great scientific project he's working on. You know, there is such a thing as an invitation, right? It's just points like this that make the story really weak. The gameplay is pretty simple. You go to an open room, fight bad guys, walk down a corridor, rinse and repeat. You can collect relics to become larger, however each level dictates how big you can become, and the level layout seemingly grows at the same rate, so all the enemies are traded in for tougher ones. Of course you can move faster and hit harder, but the gameplay is still the same no matter what. The only time that becoming larger plays out satisfactory is during the final chapter when you're constantly getting bigger and the enemies visibly become smaller by comparison, and you can really feel the weight of the impact that Knack creates. In later levels, Knack can use other items to bulk up with, such as ice, metal, and such. I'd say my favorite is wood, since Knack can set himself on fire and burn things down. He can also become glass at later points in the game to sneak past lasers. All of these things sound really cool, but they're really underplayed. There are bonus collectibles to find, and they unlock machine parts to build gadgets with, which give you a small new feature. Chances are you won't get your first gadget until very late in the game, but there's also a pointless iPhone app tie-in that unlocks these parts at a faster rate, so it's pretty forced. There's a 2-player co-op, which is pretty poorly made since player 2 is invulnerable, and the camera will only center on player 1. So, with all that lukewarm negativity, what do I like about it? Well, there's the graphics, which look really good on PS4. I also find the simplicity of picking it up and playing pretty enjoyable, and I think that's what it was intended to be. Just something to pick up and play without anything too complex. Yeah, I wish a little bit more effort could have been given to it, but for the young audience that it was clearly intended for, I'd say it's not too bad. If you like platformers, it's mediocre at best, and I sadly don't think it's one that most people will ever return to, but I still enjoy it alright. So if the negativities I stated will annoy you, I'd say give it a pass.
Is red bad? Oh yeah, red's bad.